Hey Vex heads, really quick before we get into the show, if you could go and click that subscribe on YouTube, that helps the channel, that helps me. Even if you're just an audio listener, go subscribe. It helps everyone. It's a win-win. Anyway, here's the show.
We've got flags and banners, and if you mind your manners, we might even get to standards and what they represent. So just take my voice's hand and we'll both try to understand how this Vexilla Logic podcast could be flagged for content. Flagged for content.
What's up, Vex heads, and welcome to episode 32 of Flagged for Content. It's the only flag podcast talking about whales this week. And I don't mean the country in Great Britain, so stay tuned for whatever that could mean. It is also, as always, a Flags for Good podcast. I myself just got a shipment in from them, getting the flag for content anyway. Figured I would snag a few that I had been kind of like sitting on while I was there. If you want to do the same, you can now use code FLAGGED4CONTENT, the number 4, like the digit. It's all caps. I'm not sure if that matters. You can use that on any flag, not just the show flag, over at flagsforgood.com. And did you know that Flags for Good also hosts the show on one of their blogs? That is right. I will link to that in the show notes. But if you go over there, the format of it is just so pretty. I am still migrating a few things, and it's likely some of the older episodes may never quite make it over there. But if you're looking for the transcripts or like little thumbnail versions of the flags that we talk about in the episode, it is definitely worth checking out. The most complete one as of now is the episode with Brian Stokel, California Schemin', I think it was called. But I will get the other ones up to speed as well here fairly soon. It's kind of a process, but anyway, that one is a good barometer for what the rest will look like. So I will link to that in the show notes, but you can check it out at flagsforgood.com/blogs/flagged4content podcast, all spelled out. And those last 4 words have hyphens in them. So, hard over audio, but you get it. Anyway, it's a whole thing. It's very pretty over there, though. Go check it out. It's definitely worth it. Also, a shout out to the winner of our Instagram game, Fresh Flags, which this week was at NS, that's N as in Nancy, S_flags, for getting West Papua, the Morningstar flag, before anyone else did. And if you haven't played Fresh Flags, head over to the show's Instagram because, like, holy cow, it's gotten really popular, and it's a fun way to compete with your fellow Vex heads, rather. Maybe someday I'll even get to play somehow, but it's a very fun game. Test your knowledge against, the rest of the Vex community. So we also have a Patreon, which I have briefly talked up the past couple weeks. And today, those at the $5 level are also getting a 40-minute bonus episode in addition to this, because I am not great at time management. Did not realize that it had gone on for 40 minutes. But anyway, hey, if $5 a month seems like it's worth 40 extra minutes of content for you, then hey, go for it. And if you're at the $10 level, you get an extra one even on top of that. So can't guarantee they're all going to be 40 minutes, but yeah, in fact, they probably won't be. They'll be a little shorter for my sanity's sake. Anyway, regardless of what tier you are out, you do get a shout out on the next show that I remember to actually do that. So huge shout outs to Christoph Hook. Alex Tomberlin, and Kevin Heyman. Y'all are awesome, and man, I appreciate it. It's a one-man operation over here, so anything that helps a little helps a lot. So appreciate you guys. Thanks so much. All right, so yeah, just a note, wrapping up this intro, I promise. But you guys are definitely going to want to check out the show notes. Check out the show notes. I cannot stress that enough. I have the actual PDF from Brad's NAVA presentation in there that he just like gave me access to. And some of the pics in the video version are from that. I know I always say to check the notes, but like seriously this time, just like last time with Frédéric, it's a treasure trove of information here. Like, it's amazing. It has his early sketches, the evolution of the design, a ton of really cool stuff that he just let us have access to. And the show also in the show notes are Brad's main creative site, which of course has all of his flag stuff on it, and a link to the Seattle City flag where you can buy, well, you'll see. I don't want to give away, even though I did write it here in my notes. Something is back in stock today that was previously not. So check the links out there. And yeah, if you enjoy listening to this episode with Brad half as much as I enjoyed recording it, then we are golden. This one was so much fun. So much fun. I know I always say that. It was so much fun. But stay tuned to the end because Brad also gives us some tips for getting the flags in our lives changed as well. Anyway, that's the end of the intro that I wrote. But hey, at least I wrote it this time instead of rambled it. Anyway, let's go ahead and get into the episode. Folks, I don't have to say it. You already know we have got another amazing guest for you Vex Heads this week. You know him as the designer of the big Ol Orca Face. You know him for releasing a very good Washington State flag redesign, and you know him as the designer of the Bellingham Washington flag, which I think I can see in the background there. It is Bradley Lockhart!
Woo!
Woo! What's up, Bradley?
I'm feeling flagged up today, dude. Let's do it.
Hell yeah. Yeah, we were talking off air, Bradley. You know, some weeks, not so much with me since I do a weekly show, but some weeks you don't think about or talk about flags for a long time. Sometimes everything just converges and it's all flags all the time.
I'm snowballing at you.
Not a bad thing, though. So you are, judging by the flags in your background, in, I don't know, probably Bellingham. You're in the Pacific Northwest, I assume.
Mm-hmm. Nice
Right
and green
on.
and blue up here.
Yep. I was going to ask you, is that where you're from originally, or are you a transplant?
Technically, I was born in San Diego when I was, in the mid 80s, but my family moved to Whatcom County near Bellingham when I was like 2. So it's kind of the only home I've ever known.
It's the home you claim anyway. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Right on. Yeah. I assume that, like, we'll get into it later, listeners, but I assume that, you know, has a little bit of influence on your designs and stuff like that.
Yeah, probably.
Knowing the city very well. But all right, Vex Heads, we have got a lot of good stuff on the flagpole today. First, we're going to do our typical overrated, underrated flags. We will pick Bradley's brain on his design process. We are going to, I promise it won't hurt too bad. We will go over some of those amazing designs. We'll get to as many as we can. We will chat about an American flag redesign, question marks. And at the end, we are going to play our first ever U.S. state flag version of the game. Hopefully, we've all come to know and love that I just forgot the name of, Flag Star Reviews. So from that,
reviews. I like that.
Yeah, from that, thank you. From that smooth transition right there, let's go. Before we get into any of that, Bradley, I'm going to rein it in here. I like to ask my guests one of two questions up top. Typically, it's what's their favorite flag. But for you, I've got a different one. What is the flag that got you into flags in the first place?
Yeah, so I have to say it's the Alaska state flag.
Ooh.
If you don't know it, it features the Big Dipper constellation and then also the North Star. And I think it's really just because it was one of the first flags that I noticed that wasn't just the American flag. So, you know, very young, probably like elementary school. And do kids still do the Pledge of Allegiance like every day? Is that
I imagine, at least here in Tennessee, I bet they do.
Yeah, seems like we should have phased that out by now. But I don't know, just you know, as a kid, you know, you're like, you stare at the American flag every morning, and that's what a flag is. Like the word flag to you in your brain is American flag for so many years. But then eventually you find out that there are other flags, you know, and then that kind of gets the wheels turning. And for me, that was Alaska. Like, being in Bellingham, the corner of Washington State, we're the closest kind of area to Alaska. So there's a big kind of Alaskan connection between Washington and Alaska. And so I think I just started noticing it like as stickers. I started noticing it as like things that people took pride in because, you know, Alaska almost kind of feels like its own country. You know, it's way out there. It's massive. It's just a total different economy than most places.
Yeah. It's the size bigger than a lot of countries. Yeah.
Oh yeah. You know, it's always like, you always like throw out a number and you're like, except Alaska. Like, cause it gets discounted from everything. Cause it's like so massive and so different, but like just their connection to like the gold and dark blue. It's like that color palette you see used in so many things associated with Alaska. And
Mm-hmm.
it was designed by like a 12-year-old kid named Benny Benson, like a Native American, Alaska Native kid that just like, entered a contest in 1927 or so and won. And that's really cool because I speak to kids a lot around that age and
Awesome.
encourage them to learn design and through flags. And it's like, here's the testament, like this huge flag with hundreds of thousands of copies of it, seen by millions of people, was created by someone your age, and his design has had this profound impact. So I think it just encapsulates so many of the things that are great about great flag design.
Yeah, I could not agree with you more. Especially like I guess he was 14 or something. And 1927 you nailed though. I mean, 2 points.
27 is my lucky number, so I can remember that.
Oh, fair enough. But it does speak to a lot of different things. Like, again, the fact that a 14-year-old did that makes things accessible. It's gorgeous to look at. I mean, you went through most of it there, but
it was one of the get a little lost because they are so small. So if you see it from afar, sometimes it does just look like a big blue, sheet.
Mm-hmm.
But I imagine there's many different versions where the stars have been scaled up, and are more prominent. And again, it's just that gold and blue color palette too. Like I saw a truck driving the other day that said like Alaska Fisheries, and it was just like solid blue with like gold stripes. And I'm like, well, I know where they got that from.
Yeah. I love that color scheme too. The flag and like the logo for, I think you might be able to see it at the top of the screen here, but like I've added red, a bit of red actually as the flame, but I started off, it was basically just going to be like a yellow stylized mic like that on a blue field because I love that color scheme so much too. Yeah. Mine, I was like, it needs a little bit of something. Plus the flame on mine is a little personal touch, flourish. I've always loved a blue and gold color scheme, red if you need it kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a very cool flag. This is one of the few state flags that I own other than the Tennessee, which is, the state that I live in. Yeah, I've got Tennessee, I've got the new Mississippi, Ohio, and then Alaska.
Cool.
Oh, and Colorado. And New Mexico. Sorry, yeah. We could get the good ones.
All the good ones.
Yeah.
Arizona.
I don't have Arizona yet. I also have thoughts on Arizona with the copper star, like a red orange star and like a red yellow orange star and then red and yellow rays. I feel like it needs more contrast, but I also don't have any ideas. Like I don't just want to shit post
that too. And like the copper, I guess, is significant to the state, but like, whenever you see certain colors next to each other and your eyeballs get kind of like, ooh, like that. Yeah. I think I agree with the copper color on that one.
Yeah, it is good though. All right, cool. Yeah, Alaska got you into it, and now you talk to kids about design, and so Alaska might be getting them into flags too. So that's very cool to kind of like keep it going like that. Mm-hmm. That's awesome. All right, cool. Well, I have a feeling we may touch on Alaska a little bit more later, but for now, let's go ahead and get into whichever you would like to start with, your underrated or over.
Okay, yeah, we just sprung this on me, but I have a couple thoughts. I think. Because, here we go. Milwaukee, People's Flag of Milwaukee. I think that it's underrated by the aldermen, I don't know, city council, however you say it in that city, in that they won't officially adopt it because the way it gets used is just breathtaking and incredible. And it's a testament to the power of good, design. So that bums me out that it's still not official. I mean, it's so popular that maybe it doesn't even matter at this point. But I still want to see that like straight up checked off. I want to see a bill. I want to see a law. So that would be my underrated. And overrated.
Yeah. Wait. No, let's. No, it's good.
Chat a little more about it.
I just want to chat a little bit about the Milwaukee one because exactly what you said. And I mean, I think the biggest pro in the People's Flag is the current flag.
Right. Yeah. Like I mean, it's like every pillar that you would need to justify what they're doing you have, and it still hasn't worked yet.
Yeah, my God. It's and the current flag, for those who don't know, look it up. But it's
a kitchen sink.
Able to grab that. Shoot.
Designed by committee. Flag with flags on it. flag with boats on it and buildings and structures and.
Oh my God, yeah. That is it a seal even? I don't know. It's just like a picture of the city, but
it's a collage. I mean, it's
It's counterindicated by everything in here. Good flag, bad flag, which listeners of this show do not need an intro to. Yeah, I'm glad. I love that you have a patch of it. I need to get Michael from Flags for Good to send me over a Milwaukee flag.
Yeah, I only have a few patches of my favorites, but that's one of them.
Because that's how they get adopted, seeing them fly everywhere. And as I've talked about with other designers, other folks on the show, seeing it fly is way different than seeing it on a screen. I mean, even different than seeing it on a patch, much as I do love patches. I got a couple myself. All right, cool. Let's so I guess let's just rip off the Band-Aid and do this overrated. I'll tell people to sit down, I guess, if you're standing, and I'll let you take the heat for this one.
Yeah, I think that the California state flag is somewhat overrated, and I think that the reason that people love it so much is because they love California so much. It's a huge state, beautiful state, incredibly powerful state in the country of America. But there's just some design elements like the text and the amount of white and the detail of the bear. I mean, and it's a beautiful design. I mean, it's like, it makes a great shirt, and it's like, it's a beautiful piece of graphic art, but I just don't know. I don't agree that it's like a good flag design necessarily. And that's just because of what I've had to be through having made one and having to see how the more simple it is, the more powerful it is and more impact you can have with it. Like, I just think that California could be better. And so therefore it is just a touch overrated.
Gotcha. Yeah. This one gets, especially in the last few weeks, I talked to Brian Stokel from the Fog and Gold flag in San Francisco about the same thing. I've talked to multiple people about it, but California is such an enigma. Like, like even for us Vex heads, like flag designers and, just people in the community at large, because it does tick so many of those boxes of things that you shouldn't do. And yet it is not just popular among the general population, but like also among like kind of the vexillology community and people that like quote unquote know better. Maybe that's like a shitty way to put it, but like but people that know the rules still find themselves like gravitating toward this one, to the point where Michael from Flags for Good, Michael Green, he has said, I think it was the first episode he and I ever did, he's got a redesign for California that ticks all those boxes of good flag design. It simplifies the colors, the design, it's got 2 colors, no text, etc. And he still sells the actual regular California flag on the site because he was like, it's just better. He's like, I can't put my finger on it, but people.
Well, then maybe, if something works, if it's not broken, don't fix it. So that's the thing, is it's like, people love that flag in California. It does get used a lot. So therefore it is an effective flag. Like I would never, ever argue against that, but
it's just an enigma. Like people that don't want to like it, people that, and the opposite, like it's one that gets people talking for sure.
Totally.
Yeah. I could see I could see an argument for being under or overrated. And I probably agree with both of those people, both those arguments. Yeah. All right, cool. Well, let's go ahead and get into the kind of the bulk of the show, the main part here. So as I mentioned up top, and it's too important not to get into this, so let's go ahead and do it first. The Bellingham, Washington flag, I suspect, is where a lot of our listeners and viewers will know you from. It's definitely where I knew you from coming into this. I wanted to... I like to know a designer's process and maybe like some early versions of the thing to see the entire process, because like somebody, it's not super important, but somebody is doing a short video on my show's flag coming out, and he reached out to me and he was like, hey, what are some early versions, some prototypes, things like that, so I can like build a narrative, build a picture like that. So kind of start to finish, I guess a good place to start is, what made you decide, okay, Bellingham, Washington needs a new flag, and I'm gonna take a stab at it?
Yeah, so I actually didn't decide that.
Okay.
It was decided by someone else. So 2015, the year that Roman Mars did his TED Talk, was the year that an organization in Bellingham called the Downtown Bellingham Partnership decided to have a flag design contest. So someone from there had seen the video and was like, wow, this is really powerful. Like, I think our city could benefit from a symbol like this. And I was working in-house at a tech company, like on a very big creative team. And I was a motion graphics animator at the time. And they reached out to like all the studios in my town and all the kind of like larger collections of professional creative people. And they just asked, like, do you guys want to throw down a design for this? Like, it's not, okay. There's no money involved. It's like, it's not like if you get picked, you win money or whatever. It wasn't like spec work. It was basically just like, let's try this out and see what kind of reaction we can get. And so I had grown up in Bellingham. I knew a lot of the history of the indigenous folks, the geography, the early European folks. So I was able to kind of piece together all these little things into my design. And I think that's really what made it stand out. So there was like a top 10 that got picked. And then we had a public kind of forum where people voted on their favorite ones. And I actually tied with somebody else. Like, we both got the same amount of votes. And for a while they were going to go with his. But then at some point, like, the leadership changed in the organization. And we just decided, like, hey, like, why don't we make a prototype version of Brad's one and, like, unveil it at this event and see how people react.
Yeah, because so up until that point, had people only ever seen them on a screen or a sheet of paper, like a 2D version?
They hadn't even really seen it at all. Like, if you showed up to this event, they were printed off on boards, like with the explanation. There was only like maybe 100 people at that thing. It was at a movie theater for like a talk. And so most people hadn't seen anything. And then it went straight from not really being seen by anyone to this very first version of it that I sewed. And I don't think I even have it because I think the museum took it or something. But it was like, I got fabric from like Joann Fabrics, like definitely not flag fabric. And it was like, the colors were all wonky, but we just like, raised it on a little pole. And then we printed off like a couple hundred stickers and just like instantly gone, like everybody, once they saw that, they just became obsessed. Like, a dude got a tattoo of it within like 3 days of seeing it. And he's just like, check it out. I'm like, dude, we are so early. And
it wasn't official yet?
Oh, it was years away from being official. And I was like, bold. You better not jinx me with this, dude. Like, but yeah, I mean, because people in my town we love Bellingham. It's like, there's a lot of Pacific Northwest.
That's awesome.
Pride,
yeah.
But particularly Bellingham, we're this little kind of coastal enclave. And we just have so much pride of where we live. And we hadn't ever had a way to show that yet. And now all of a sudden we're like, here's a way to show that. And everybody instantly was like on board.
So that's awesome. Was this a case of a city that did Bellingham have a flag prior to that and that needed changing, or it just, so didn't have one and then, I think in the Vex community, we measure things like pre-Roman and post-Roman Mars, like the 2015
totally.
talk. But
this is like first wave too.
Yeah.
It's like right at the beginning, really.
Right on. And your background had been in graphic design, but you were more on the motion graphic side of things, you said.
At the time, I'd been doing motion graphics for a year or two, but before that, it was really graphic design. So I studied graphic design with like a little emphasis in animation, and my first 2 or 3 year job was graphic design, and then I kind of started moving into animation. And now I've been freelance for like 7 years, and it's pretty equal. It's like, half and half, basically.
Awesome. So safe to say this was the first flag design that you did?
Yeah, I think, definitely.
Okay, very cool. And you've got, we were talking off air, you've got a couple behind you, like not even early versions. Maybe one of them is like a misprint or whatever. The goofy ones.
Yeah, I found a box of flag artifacts. This is one where they didn't scale the strokes on the stars, so they got like extra chubby.
Yeah.
And then just some cool, these are like letterpressed notebooks that somebody made.
Those are awesome.
One of the first things we did, and this is like for other people that are trying to get a flag off the ground, we mailed out like a couple thousand of these stickers, and it said Bellingham, Washington on it. Because at first nobody knew what this was. It's like, oh, cute blue and green thing. If
I got that sticker in the mail and it didn't say any words on the top, I would think I was going to be murdered by somebody. It's just somebody just sent me a sticker. I'd be like, all right, who the fuck did? Who did this?
Yeah. But this was smart because it was kiss cut, so then you could peel the flag out, stick the flag on something, then you knew what it was. But then we also made like a couple thousand of these, and it's kind of nice because Bellingham and Washington, nice equal text size for you design nerds. And then this was just kind of like the first symbol that went out there, and yeah, tons of different versions. Like the pride symbol, the pride version of the flag is honestly just as popular as the regular in
Holy
Bellingham.
shit! Of course it is. That's gorgeous.
Like there's thousands of these flying in Bellingham. We're a very progressive city, of course.
Sure, yeah.
But yeah, I was able to take the original 6 colors of the original pride flag, and then I just kind of broke 2 of them up in here.
Dude,
so that's it.
Yeah, I had not seen that one. That looks so good.
Love it. In fact, a lot of people think that this is the Bellingham flag because it's just so prominent. Like there's banners in the city, like from the city poles of this design. And yeah, this was like a politician whose name was Pinky. So there's like a pink ring around her heart, and it keeps going. We don't need.
That's awesome. Yeah. So if you need merch, reach out to Brad.
Oh yeah, I know a lot about merch now.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so that's like the impetus, the jump starting of the flag. So as far as the design itself, kind of give us the design notes, and maybe, as I said, I like to see the evolution. Was there an earlier version of this that maybe had 5 stripes, maybe had different number of stars, anything like that?
I don't have it. Like I don't have the imagery pulled up, but basically, I started with the half circle, which you don't really see that commonly in flags.
It's usually like a chevron, like a triangle, if there's something.
Is Bahamas a triangle? Yeah. I know that there's at least 1 or 2 that now I've seen that have a half circle on the hoist side, using my flag words here.
There you go.
But when I did that, that's when I was like, ooh, like this is clicking, because like Bellingham Bay, we're situated right on this bay. It's where the word Bellingham came from.
Okay.
It was the first thing named Bellingham. In like 1792. Yeah, we don't need to get into it. A lot of history there, but that was the first thing. It's like half circle. And then like, I think the stripes were next. And I remember my dad always telling me like, Bellingham was originally 4 towns and they were all situated around the bay. And so it's almost like a crappy map of the bay, because you literally have like the bay and then like Whatcom, Seaholm, Bellingham, Fairhaven, these 4 towns, and their western edge all touched Bellingham Bay. So it's like almost like an aerial view of the city. But yeah, I did lots of different versions. I think I have a little screen grab here. Yeah, at first I had like some raindrops instead of stars. I tried to fit some trees in there. In fact, at one point, the half circle, I actually made it like the letter B for Bellingham. But then that just seemed a little corny, like that's the kind of thing you would do to try and appease people, because they're just like, what? It has nothing to do with Bellingham. And well, there's a big B. And then they're like, oh, okay. It's just like compromises sometimes that you need to make, but you shouldn't,
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, I had like a little whale, like a little simplified whale, orca whale on there for a minute, but I took that off. And I think I landed where we landed, because one thing about it that you might not realize is it's like super numerically balanced. Like it's got 1 half circle, 2 stars, 3 waves, 4 stripes. And I really like the way that all kind of laid out like that.
And even the stars that you use are 4-pointed stars. So even that is another...
It's unique. It's a unique trait. And at the time, 4-point stars, I don't think there were very many on flags. But also, I knew that people were going to fly it vertically. In fact, that's what, like, if you walk into a coffee shop or a brewery, most people are flying it vertically. So when they rotated it, I wanted the stars to look exactly the same when it was rotated 90 degrees.
Yeah.
So that was the thought process there.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah, just lots of notes. I did the like thumbnail thing where you draw as many things as you can into a tiny space.
Sure.
Built it in Illustrator so I could tweak the colors with the vector shapes really quick. But
awesome. Yeah.
Came together.
Is there any significance to the number of like the 3 wavy lines? Is there 3, or is that just for symmetry?
Okay. Well, it's supposed to be a waterfall as well. So if you, it's supposed to represent waves on Bellingham Bay. Uh-huh. And we live in Whatcom County, and Whatcom is an indigenous word that means noisy waters or the sound of water crashing. Okay. But then if you rotate it, like I was saying, then the waves were supposed to symbolize Whatcom Falls, which is like our iconic waterfall. I tried with 2, and it just didn't feel like as much as a waterfall. So it definitely reads more of a waterfall with 3. And we have three creeks that run into Bellingham Bay. But I didn't know that until after I put the flag out. And then someone was like, that reminds me of the 3 creeks. And I'm like, yeah, totally. That's what I was doing the whole time.
Yeah. Those happy accidents, like it's not the first time that's come up on this show, where it's the designer didn't intend for something necessarily, but it works like too perfectly. Actually, I think
Brian dig deep.
Yeah, Brian Stokel and I were talking about that. Do you know the flag of Columbia, South Carolina?
Not off the top of my
It's
head.
like dark blue field. It's got like it's hard to explain, but it's got kind of two lines that start in one corner and get smaller as they go up toward that one. But then it's got another. It's supposed to look like a wing, apparently, but
Oh, is
it's
that
got
the
a.
one that looks like a whale?
It looks like a whale to me. Okay,
Yeah,
yes,
me too. I
that's
love
the one.
that one.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
It's
'Cause
grown on me a
blue and light
lot.
blue. Yeah.
Yeah, it's grown on me in like 2 weeks. I talked about it 2 weeks ago, and in that time
Yeah,
I
when I
like it a
first
lot.
saw that one, the first thing I thought was like humpback whale.
Mhm.
I don't know if they have any humpback whales there, but
Same. But Brian was saying like maybe Brian was saying like the unintentionally, but one of the islands in one of those like rivers or streams or whatever is shaped exactly like that. Like that
oh,
kind of
cool.
curved on one side, straight on the other. The
Mhm.
artist did not mean to do that, but it's there and now it's forever there. And
Yeah, that's just,
people see what they want.
happens.
Speaking of people seeing what they want, when I look, I think the first time I ever saw the Bellingham flag design, it looks like a very nicely mowed lawn.
Oh yeah,
I'm not gonna lie. Like,
or
like
a blue plate with squiggles of lasagna on it. I've heard that too.
oh, I see. I wouldn't have gone there. For me, it's very outdoor, naturey, which I'm sure was part of the intention.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, just I guess it's like I've never personally done this, but people who mow their lawn well or pay somebody to do it, they get like kind of the stripes going. Yeah,
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, I wasn't sure what design solution to do that, to make the four shapes. Like here's like kind of one.
I think you nailed it.
Here's one of my vanity versions that's just black and silver, and so a lot of the times it'll show up in one color, in which case like the stripes are outlined, which sometimes helps with the contrast too. Like this is one of the early patches, and it's like not quite happy with the contrast between those two colors. But I've also like updated it over the years. Like I've made the waves thicker, I've made the stars a little bit bigger, and I've kind of locked down the colors. Like I've picked specific Pantones so that it can be reproduced, right? Because when I first made this thing, I'm just like making up colors in Illustrator, color picking colors from stuff that
just take I like the color of that logo, so I'm gonna like do a little swatch thing and go over that. Yeah,
little do I know that it's impossible to reproduce, or it's like there's no nylon that will ever resemble that, right, for sewing. So
yeah,
whatever, make do.
Yeah. Well, right on, dude. Yeah, that's awesome. There's something that I wanted to kind of move on to / like touch on that was not in our notes when we started doing this, but that you kind of mentioned up top. So when we were talking about Alaska specifically, you do like talks with kids about flag design.
Mm-hmm.
I was not aware of that. Like, so how is that set up, and like what age kids, and like I don't know. I'm just interested in broad terms about that.
Yeah, like the first time I did it, it was for like the Boys and Girls Club, and we had them like paint their own Bellingham flags, and then I just kind of told the story of the design. But since then, gosh, I've probably done it 20 times, and I'll go to a mostly elementary age, like 3rd, 4th grade is like the perfect age for kids when they start, memorizing dinosaur names or like just getting like really into stuff. You come in there and you teach them the 5 principles, and then they're just like, they love that. Like kids that age actually love like rules because they want to like, teach their parents stuff. And so it's this really cool opportunity to get in there, teach them something nerdy. They always design their own flags in class, so they'll draw little thumbnail sketches. And I found that cutting them out of paper, cutting them out of construction paper is the best way to do it. So they'll, try and design something kind of complicated, but then I tell them, hey, guess what? You're going to have to cut that out of paper in one color with a pair of scissors. Can you do that? And then they're like, no. And so then they make the horse head, like just a silhouette rather than with like hair or
right.
And some amazing flags have come out of these things. Like I've got copies of them, and they're so beautiful and simple and meaningful.
Yeah. And since they're also, I was going to say, since they're kids, they can't own the design. So you take those and you
just steal
profit off of them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Drop ship them.
Yeah, dude, I like this. I like this scheme you're running over there.
If I were cruel, I would absolutely do that. Like I've got so much art that it's just is lost to the world.
Someday
one of the most important things to me about it, though, is like being a kid who was creative growing up and having no idea what a job was other than painting. When you're a kid, like art is sculptures and paint. And then I come in and I'm like, I design posters. Have you ever thought about somebody had to pick that poster on your wall? Someone had to pick the font. Someone had to pick the color. Someone had to design the logo on your shirt. So it's just kind of like you see their minds just like open up in terms of like graphic design world, and then you swoop in with the flag, and then they create their own flag, and yeah, it's really fun.
Dude, I bet that's very fun, very rewarding. If I were more on the vexillography side of things, I'm a shit designer, I'll say that much. Yeah, most of my redesigns do not win the competition that I enter them in. And that's even just lower level internet stuff. But yeah, I mean, not trying to knock myself. I have noticed that the ones that I make get better and get better, which is natural for anybody, anything. Yeah, no, it's so cool that you do that, like kind of like not just education, but like early education too, to like get them into it. I'm always saying like, we need more Vex heads, and nobody's, well, I don't know, maybe you're born one, but a lot of times you don't know you are one until something kind of draws it out of you, and you're like, ooh, I really like this. I really connect to this. And speaking of like, so for the kids and everything, there's one design of yours that I'm sure you show them this one, and I'm sure they absolutely love this one. I am talking, of course, about the big Ol Orca Face. I mean, take it from here. So you did say you originally had some orca whales in the Bellingham design. Is this the product of, I need one of those.
Orca patch.
Is this orca the product of like, were you like working through something personally, and since you couldn't put them on the Bellingham one, you're like, well, it's got to go somewhere? Like, what's the deal?
Honestly, that's funny that you mentioned that, because one of the first times I gave a talk, I showed like early iterations of the Bellingham flag. One time it had a little orca whale on it. And then I actually got like a letter from a kid in the mail that was like, why'd you take the whale off? Like, I wanted the whale on there. So I had like a subconscious thing where I knew people, especially kids, loved seeing whales on flags. But God, it's such a long story, but I'll tell you the meat and potatoes of it. I mean, when I was first designing it, I was just playing around with shapes, right? And I just did like two little like half circles, and then they overlapped and formed this negative space, and I was like, oh man, like that's kind of a unique take. And then I was like, oh boy, it could be a giant whale's face. But so the background is the city of Seattle has a terrible flag. They adopted it in the early 90s for the Goodwill Games, and it was designed by a city council person, and it's just the city seal with some weird rope, and it says like, City of Goodwill, which is a phrase no one's ever used to describe Seattle. It's got our rendering of Chief Seal, later Seattle, which is just the city logo. So it just kind of feels like it's another parking ticket, like it's not like, doesn't feel like something people are stoked and want to celebrate.
Right.
So in 2019, the Seattle Times sent out a call, and they're like, give us your ideas for a Seattle flag. And so I made a very reasonable design that was an emerald on with some stripes, and it kind of represented Puget Sound and Lake Washington, and had all this like meaning, and I thought it was a pretty decent flag design. I sent it to them, and then they published it, and they made it like the actual like cover image for the article. I was like, oh cool, like they really like this one. And
yeah, I'm looking at that article right now. That's very cool.
About a month later, 2 months later, the Seattle Stranger, which is kind of like our alternative music, arts, culture magazine, was like, well, we want to have a contest, because the Seattle Times didn't have any kind of contest. They were just like, hey, Seattle should get a new flag. What's your idea? But then they had no like end goal. Mm-hmm. The Stranger, however, was like, send us your designs. We're going to pick our top favorites. We're going to have a contest. So I sent them the emerald, but I had just like a couple other ideas floating around in my head. And I ended up putting a few on the bottom of my website of the Emerald page. If you're on my flag site, you can see a few other ideas that I had. One of which was Orca Face. And it just like was an accident, like I said, the lines overlapping. And so I sent that to them, but I had already sent them my Emerald as myself, Brad Lockhart. So I was like, I'm going to send the Orca as Chet Clapper. So I just made up like a name, made up a pseudonym, made a fake Gmail, sent it to them. And I didn't really think much of it. Eventually, like a couple weeks later, I Googled Chet Clapper in quote marks to be like, did I steal somebody's real name? And then all this stuff started showing up. It's like Orca Face flag by Chet Clapper, best flag by Chet Clapper. All these people had already started like getting obsessed with it. And I'm like, how did they see it? Like the contest hasn't even started yet. But when the Stranger got this one in the mail, they started like publishing stories about it, because they were so excited about it. They're like, Chet Clapper's flag. Look at this flag. Try and make a better one than Chet, and like,
I love
somebody
you had a
made
pen name. Yeah.
yeah, no, somebody made a Twitter where they started mocking it up, like in all these fake, waving, kind of formats, and someone even made like a fake Chet Clapper Twitter because they had a feeling it was a fake name. So like it's just like this huge snowball effect of people like getting obsessed with this design. So eventually they actually had the contest, right? And the Emerald and the Orca Face got picked.
Uh-huh.
And so they're both in the top 10. There was like 100 designs, so it wasn't like a million, but so now I'm like, oh man, I'm like battling myself. Like the Emerald and the Orca are like straight up like punching it back and forth. And at this point, I've told absolutely no one that I did the Orca. Like everywhere, everything on social media, I'm saying, hey, vote for my Emerald. Like vote for my Emerald. Beat this stupid Orca one. This Bodie McBoat face of flags. But in the end, it ended up getting like 5,000 more votes than the Emerald, which came in second place. And I had to come clean. I was like, I have to tell these people that I did this. So I was like, hey, here's my phone number. Could you just call me? Because it's going to be hard to explain on email, And I was like, hey, guys, like, I'm Chet Clapper and I'm Brad. I didn't know you were going to fall in love with this so hard. I didn't know everybody was going to get obsessed. I'm sorry if I like tricked you. I really didn't mean to do that. And they really did not like that. So they were like, okay, you've made a mockery of our thing that was already kind of a mockery to begin with. So they disqualified me. Both flags got kicked out of the contest.
What?
And yeah, and then it turned out that there had been some bot voting. So because it was just like a weird little survey that you could click on a website.
Yeah, I'm looking on your website about that now. Yeah, with fake votes and
somebody on Reddit or something must have figured out how to like auto vote. So actually, a bunch of the votes were fake. But if you took them away, the Orca actually won with even more votes. That was the weird thing. It was like the Emerald
I see that graphic too.
Yeah, the Emerald got a lot of fake votes, so it made it look bad for me because they both got all these fake votes. Other flags got fake votes too. It wasn't just mine, but mine.
Yeah, but they got like whatever number one was, it got 9 fake votes. Yours got like 2,400 or something.
Yeah, like what? I don't. Who had the time to do this?
I don't know.
It was so weird, but they didn't believe that I didn't have anything to do with that because I feel like at that point they thought it was this grand scheme that I'd hatched up or whatever.
I mean, given the amount of fakes for the Emerald and that one, I can see their viewpoint because it is like a clusterfuck of like just okay.
Absolutely, yeah, and it was sucks because it was so exciting to watch them because they were like neck and neck, at the end. And then like all of that was fake, but at the same time they also did get first and second place, so they were kind of battling each other. But the Orca was like, maybe 4,000 more votes than the Emerald, so it definitely was the fan favorite. So they ended up picking a different flag as a winner. I don't think that flag ever even got made into anything, like a sticker, a patch, nothing. But Orca Face, I just started instantly getting emails with people like, I want this flag. I want to fly it at my house. I want to wear it on a shirt. I want this and that. So I bought SeattleCityFlag.com and started just mocking up merch. Most of it was like drop shipped. So stuff that I don't actually have to produce. Somebody else prints it and ships it. Eventually people were like, we need flags. And I'm like, okay. So I ordered, 50 screen printed ones because I like screen printed flag designs. And I got like 100 and then like 200. I've definitely made hundreds of the flags at this point. And I just sold out, but I'm reprinting them right now. Stickers, people have gotten tattoos of it. I made masks during the pandemic. So I was
gonna say those are awesome.
Put the big old Orca face on your face, and it was like, now it's time for the whales to save you. Like so many good lines. We had have so much fun with it. And it's just gonna be this weird thing that it's probably gonna follow me around for a while. But and it's funny if you look at it like. Objectively, it is kind of a good flag design because it's 3 colors. It's unique. It's meaningful. It's simple. You can draw it. It's just a couple lines to draw the thing pretty quickly. So it kind of was. And in the Pacific Northwest, we really, really howled orca whales like on a pedestal. They're like, they are in Washington State. They're the state endemic marine mammal. We're always trying to save them. When you see them swimming, it's just like everybody just freaks out. Your heart just like explodes. So there is this emotion that we associate with orcas, and I think that's been really part of it too.
Yeah, that is incredible. I as you were talking, I was just kind of reading over. Once you like on your Lariat Creative, if you click on the flags, then click on the Orca face, there is a lot of info on this one.
Yeah.
And I love that you you submitted under the alias Check Clapper, as you said, with the
Mhm.
description: "Big old orca face, our most precious marine
That was
mammal."
it. Yeah, no like meaning behind the colors, none of the classic flag stuff, just big old orca face.
Yeah, and it's wonder. I wonder. God, it's hard to tell with one like this. It could be that it benefited so much from all the publicity of getting banned. Like you have it written here as the officially disqualified orca face people's flag.
The
Like I love
officially
that.
disqualified.
I love that wording, officially
Yeah.
disqualified,
Yeah, because
because
it
like
was officially kicked out.
yeah, I mean it's not wrong. But I
Uh-uh.
wonder if it's like one of those things where it's like, people chase the controversy and they're like, "Ooh, that one was disqualified. I want that." But in this case, I don't even know if you needed that bump because it's like
No. Yeah, it
viewers
just works.
will be seeing it on the screen. Listeners, look this up and follow along because holy shit, it does work. You said you're doing another run soon. I need
Mhm.
one of these in my life in
Three
some
by
form.
fives. I've still got
Uh,
12x18s, but yeah, 3x5s have sold out.
Gotcha. Yeah, I love a 3x5. We will talk to me when you get those ready to go because I don't
For
know if I'm
sure.
quite committed enough for a tattoo yet. I'll have to
Yeah,
at
some
least
of the
visit
tattoos are
Seattle.
really funny. Yeah, you'll have to visit. You have to look at an orca whale in person, and then you can get it.
Yeah, I don't believe I ever have. Here
Maybe
in Tennessee, we
SeaWorld.
don't really have much for marine life, rivers and streams, things like that, which are
Mm-hmm.
great, but ocean life, not so much. So,
Totally.
yeah. And I've only ever been on the East Coast. I don't know if we have orca whale. Well, I'm sure they're
They're
maybe
kind
up
of
there,
everywhere, I
up
think.
north, I guess.
Not
But
as much as like humpbacks, which are kind of everywhere, but yeah, orcas. I think they're kind of more of a West Coast thing.
all right, dude. That's awesome. All right. Those are two of the ones that I wanted to get to. One of the other
Yeah.
ones we were talking about up top. How are we on time? Okay. I want to make sure and get to this one because it's a good story.
Mm-hmm.
The America the Beautiful flag design. So, from what I understand, this came from a redesign process that was not entirely, it was not intending to actually replace the American flag, but more of like a creative what if kind of thought process,
Mm-hmm.
extrapolate from here type thing. Your design is a lot and a little. I mean, it's simplistic and it's complicated at the same time.
Totally.
Uh, I'll have it up on the screen for the viewers, but yeah, walk us through this. I there's one that I can pick out right now is the Purple Mountains Majesty, but other than
Mm-hmm.
that, what are
Yeah.
we looking at here?
So yeah, a little background. This was for an organization called Amplifier, and they're like a political arts organization. If you ever saw the We the People campaign with those really beautiful stylized images of people from like the election of 2016, they're the ones
Yes.
that came
Okay. Yeah.
up with. Yeah, they're the ones that came up with that. And so this was their idea. They're like, we want to, have artists envision what a redesign of the American flag would look like to them. And I have like kind of a cool little one here that's like it's called the serape flag, and it's basically like a Mexican serape pattern.
Oh, that is very cool.
This is kind of one of their examples. They're like, what culturally would you do to change the flag? And so I came up with this idea, and yeah, it's a lot. It's way too many colors, way too many shapes, and it kind of would go against all the things that I've learned about flags and how you need to make them simple so that you can
Yeah.
recreate them in multiple ways. But it was just like a fun design challenge for me where I wanted to take all of the first stanzas from America the Beautiful, the Catherine Lee Bates poem, and kind of try and visually represent them in a design. So we have the Purple Mountains Majesty in the middle, just purple triangles. Oh, beautiful for spacious skies. There's a big kind of blank area on the fly of the flag. Above the fruited plains, we've got some rolling red orchards because I like looked up a lot of the history, and it was specifically like referencing apple orchards above when they were talking about fruited plains. And then there's an amber wave of grain underneath the fruited plains. And then there's some triangles in the sides from a line that overlaps that's from sea to shining sea. So the Pacific Ocean on the west and the Atlantic on the east. And then I decided to include 13 stars, this 13 circle star from Betsy Ross's original design. But I also thought it would be kind of a nice symbol to represent the 13th Amendment to the Constitution, which ended slavery. So yeah, it's like I think I described to you that it's almost like a concept album, where you try and like fit
Yeah.
everything into one idea. That's kind of what I see this as, is just like an experimental kind of design. And yeah, I thought it got picked to be in like the top 8 or something like that, and they licensed it from me, and I think that they gave it away for free to somebody to use. I'm not exactly sure, but yeah, it was a fun design challenge.
Yeah, that is very cool. If I were a designer, I would love a good challenge like that. I
Mm-hmm.
also love, just as a side note, that you use the Betsy Ross like 13 stars where they're all pointed up, like pointed the same direction. The
Mm.
one where they're all like pointed outward kind of drives me nuts, and I have one
Oh,
listener who it definitely drives nuts.
I haven't even noticed that. I guess I'm not. Yeah, I don't know
Well,
that much about it.
yeah, you may have lucked into this one then, but yeah, it is a lot. I would not have picked out the Sea to Shining Sea. I might have eventually. The
Hmm.
Amber Waves, okay, I think I probably would have got the rest. So what was like what did the winning design like get? I guess for lack of a better.
There wasn't really a winner. I think that they just picked the top 8 or 10, and yeah, you got some money, a couple $100, and then they put it on their website for anyone to be able to like use. So you had to kind of sign the rights over to them.
Mm,
And I think
okay.
that they just made some merch out of it. I know originally they were going to have like a big art show in Washington D.C. where they were going to like create actual flag versions of them and hang them in this gallery, but it actually happened kind of like post or like near the beginning of the pandemic.
Mm.
So not much really else came out of this, but there are some really cool designs. I have a screenshot on the site of a few of the other top ones.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out. So the contest was called, I had it, American Flag Remix Campaign, August
Yeah.
2019. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
Yeah, so list
2019. My bad. Maybe it was not pandemic. Gosh, I don't even know what happened
well, it
there.
says in August of 2019, organized by Amplifier.
Hmm.
The design was selected to the top 12 and licensed by Amplifier in November 2019.
Okay. Yeah. Maybe it
But
wasn't a
yeah,
pandemic thing. I don't know whatever happened with the art show element, but yeah, they do a lot of different things. They do different calls to action for different design campaigns and stuff.
yeah, I'm looking at like you've got it, or you've got like maybe a screenshot of like the Amplifier thing down here at the bottom with the other redesigns. Like yours is the
Hmm.
top left, and the other ones. Yours is the only one that doesn't get pretty fucking political, huh?
Yeah, they're all mostly political, and I think that's kind of what
I'm
they
not saying
wanted.
that that's wrong, but
Yeah, that's what they wanted people to do. But for me, I'm just sometimes I'm a sucker for like simplicity. I suppose you could say that my 13-star thing was a little political, but
yeah.
you know, I've been in the flag world for so long now that I try to make flags non-political,
Mhm.
because I really want them to be something that can be embraced by everyone.
Yeah.
In my town, it's like I see people use the Bellingham flag. It's everywhere, all the time, used by people on opposite ends of the political spectrum. Like I saw them use it as a sticker that said, "Keep Seattle out of Bellingham." And that was obviously someone who was like maybe a little more right, that was like, we don't want these liberal Seattle people moving to our town, and they used the Bellingham flag as the symbol. And then I also saw it used on like a sign outside in someone's yard that was like, "Shut down the coal plant train," or whatever, and this big
Yeah.
old Bellingham flag. And it's like, I want people to fly this wherever they want, as long as they don't make it about like a hate symbol,
Right. Yeah.
as long as it's just something that they use to catch people's attention, that's fine, but
Yeah. I mean that's got to be the intent too. Like I don't know if do you know the Keystone flag for Pennsylvania?
yeah,
Have you like
I bought a sticker, but I don't think I've gotten in the mail yet.
Oh
through
no.
their
Well,
through their Kickstarter.
I was going to say I thought the stickers had been sent. Maybe not. I know the patches have not been sent yet.
Might have been my
So
bad. I might have not filled out the survey
if you're waiting
correctly.
on a patch, yeah, those are shipping soon, I think. But anyway, yeah, Tara, she's been on the show a couple times, the
Cool.
designer, but she makes
Mhm.
a specific point to say a lot of the things you just said is this is the tagline, that she uses is a better flag for all Pennsylvanians, or a flag
Absolutely.
for all Pennsylvanians.
Hmm.
She has her own politics, but they're closer to probably mine and yours than maybe even a lot of people that own the flag. But
Sure. Yeah.
that's not what's important. It's important, especially in Pennsylvania's case, getting those fucking horses off the flag and getting really, I say anything, but honestly, I have a preferred one. I think that's too good to pass up. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you kind of have to, I guess, like you've done with Bellingham and with at other points in your life, it gets to the point where, all right, this was my baby, but I have to let it go kind of now.
You gotta love it and let it go.
It's got to make its own mistakes, and
it's not yours anymore. It's everybody's, you know, and like people are gonna do all kind. I saw somebody yesterday walk by with it screen printed on their sweatshirt, and it was like red and white, like a red and white Bellingham flag. I'm like, what the hell was that? Like I almost wanted to chase the guy down and be like, what are you doing? But like you just can't. Like it'll keep you up at night, you know?
Yeah, I guess I was going to ask because like I've never been in this headspace. Probably a few of our listeners have, but most have not. Like how, like, I don't know, this is maybe an abstract question, but like emotionally or intellectually or whatever, like what is that like to kind of have to let your design go and just send it out in the world and see it on, you know, things you don't agree with all the time and stuff. Like
it's odd.
Is there a way to put that into words? Like what that,
I don't know. I mean, I think you just kind of got to get over it. Like when I first created the design, it was very much associated with me. You know, it was like,
yeah, okay,
that weird guy Brad has a flag. That's Brad's flag. But within like a couple months of putting them out there and putting it in the public domain and people reusing it and remixing it, it's like you do have to just remove yourself from it. And so nowadays, most people don't see it and think of me. They just see it and think of Bellingham. It's just this ubiquitous symbol
right,
for the entire city. But yeah, and as a logo designer, that happens too, you know, because you create a logo and you spend a couple weeks or months on it, and it's your baby, but then it's not because you made it for someone else, and then they're the ones that put it on their car or embroider it on their shirt, and you got to move on to the next one. So being a designer who does that sort of work, I'm actually kind of more accustomed to that.
Yeah, I was going to say, I guess you had like some kind of baseline for that, whereas I would have a hard time with that if I spent the amount of time. Well, also the amount of time that it would take me to come up with a great design. I'm not saying I couldn't do it. It would take me longer for sure. And the amount of time put in, I would be like, no, okay.
It's not supposed to be white and red. What are you doing?
Yeah, knowing me, I'd like somehow find a way to like put like an A for Andy in like part of it. I just like part of the star has like a little cross above it.
Yep.
I don't know. Still mine, motherfucker. No. I don't know. That's just me, and I know I would have a hard time with it. It's good that we have folks like you that don't. The last one I wanted to get into, like I said, it's design day on the pod today, but I want to get into your Olympia flag design because I had not known about this until about 10 minutes before we started recording, and now it's all I can think about. I get flags. I'm sure a lot of our listeners, I get flags stuck in my head, like people get songs and stuff stuck in their head. And this is going to be one of those earworms, brainworms, I guess, maybe, that sticks with me. This one, God bless, man. I just saw, sorry, that God bless was because I just saw the old flag.
Yep.
So, I mean, I know I keep asking variations on the same question, but like, what was your process on this one?
Yeah, so again, the city of Olympia approached me after seeing the success of the Bellingham flag, and they're like, "We have this city flag. It's really just like a logo. It kind of looks like, you know, 90s Microsoft Paint design. It flies like one place. We'd really love to have it flying all over the city. We'd really love to have the kind of, you know, merch opportunities that you guys have up there or whatever." And so I designed a few that I thought were pretty nice. The one that I kind of am highlighting the most, I guess I don't have like a name for it or anything, but it's a large blue four-sided star on a white circle. And then it has a line that runs horizontally across the flag and goes up the circle. And then it has another blue line that runs down the circle. And in Olympia, they're obsessed with they have an artesian well. It's like they're obsessed with their water. And so if you go to like downtown Olympia, there's this like well that everybody goes and gets water from. So that's what the artesian underneath line represents. And they're also on the very bottom of the Puget Sound. They're nestled right down there at the very tip of our big waterway that runs through our state. So that's what the other blue represents. 5-sided star is for Olympia because they're the capital city. And then there's kind of like a loose O shape with the circle for Olympia. Yeah. And then the white is supposed to represent, they have a nice view of the Olympic Mountains, which is where they get their name from. The Olympic Mountains are on the peninsula of Washington, but you can see them from there because they're pretty big.
I did not know there were Olympic Mountains.
Yeah.
Makes sense now.
Olympia, Olympic Mountains. Oh, the Olympic Peninsula is the name of the big half of our state that has like all the rainforests and all the twilight shit. That's
Okay,
out
yeah,
there. That's the
gotcha.
Olympic Peninsula. Yeah. But yeah, that design, I love it. I said that they should involve some Olympia artists. You know, having been involved in this process before, I knew the first thing that people were going to say was, "Why did you hire some guy from Bellingham? Should have hired somebody from Olympia." And so I was like, "Let's get multiple people involved." So
Yeah.
they had like 3 or 4 local artists come up with designs, and made sure that it wasn't like spec work. That we were all
Mhm.
going to get compensated for our time. And so I never even got to see the other designs. Honestly, I sent them mine, and then I checked in every couple months, and they're like, "Yeah, we love yours. We're probably going to go with yours." And then the last I heard from them was like, "You know what? We're just having so many political crises, like homelessness and like all these things that every city has to deal with." But they're like, "We're just not going to be able to do this because we know the backlash is going to be too strong. People are going to be like, why are you wasting money on art when you need to be, fixing the roads and like
Yeah.
all the kind of stuff that the people always kind of use to debate the creation or redesign of flags."
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we see it. We're seeing it play out in Utah too. There's like
Absolutely.
all these, and Michael could talk at length about this because they've accused him of somebody on a podcast, not this one, obviously, called him like the Antichrist
Sure.
for suggesting that they redesign a shitty state flag.
Dude, I've heard it all. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I guess you got to have a little bit of a thick skin to.
Oh yeah, big time.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, big time. But yeah, there's always flags have a way of making people extremely passionate. It just pulls something out of them, and everyone, not just Vex heads, like every single person cares. Like Roman Mars said that every single person cares about flags.
Yeah.
Especially like they wait to find out that Olympia's redesigning the flag. It's like news that comes to them, and then they're like, "I'm gonna stop that from happening." Like you didn't care yesterday about the flag of Olympia, but now you care because you just found out this idea. It's like it's wild.
It's the same thing with like the polls in Utah because they're still trying to the shit bags, for lack of a better word.
They're trying to get like signatures to get
and they already
something.
It failed. I don't know if they have another chance like next session or whatever, but it failed like spectacularly.
Like it got to move on with their lives.
I know, yeah. People just picking shit to be angry about, exactly like you said, because it's like the poll was like, do you fly a flag at home? If so, which one? Just for Utahns. And it was like state flag was 3%, which is the lowest of any of the options. And they even let you select multiple options. Obviously not that one and another option.
Do you fly both or US and? Yeah, no, I totally
neither.
get that.
Yeah, there were a lot more people that flew neither than it's weird. And it's so bizarre, like coming from Tennessee too, because like Tennessee, like our state flag is great and it is solid everywhere. Like I can drive 10 minutes that way. I can drive 10 minutes that way, and I will see at least 5. I'm at least out in the suburbs, and it's like Tennessee suburbs. It's I don't know. It's usually it's all. Most southern suburbs, it's all American flags, but when you got a good state flag, that one gets thrown on too.
Yeah. Do we have time to talk about my Washington flag? Because that's all these things start touching on.
I would love to talk about your Washington flag. Let's go into that.
Okay, yeah, let's do it before we run out of time. But yeah, so I have all these patches next to me. So here's a little patch version of my flag. I gave it a classic gold border, but it's a lot of the things that you're just talking about. In Washington State, no one flies the Washington State flag. It's a picture of George Washington's face. It's the seal of the state, just like seal on a bed sheet, like everybody else. The one nice thing about us is that it is on a field of green. So that's the one design element that they chose.
Yeah, they thought they could be sneaky.
We're the evergreen state, so they put it on green, and God bless them, they did a good job there. But everywhere else, it just kind of falls short. It the symbol itself was taken from first it was a postage stamp, so it wasn't like even original art, and then they used like a bottle of cough syrup to put the final George flag, and that was the seal, and so that was in the late 1800s, and then early 20th century when the Daughters of the American Revolution were like trying to get all the states to have flags, they just were like, just throw that seal there and then call it good. And then it was, unofficial for 8 years. And then the state was like, we'll just use the ones that those people did that one time. Like there was no consideration. There was no process. And that's what irks me about these people today in Utah when they're like, how dare you do this thing? And it's like, you guys have been using the thing that nobody thought about.
Mhm.
Nobody cared about. Nobody put any thought into it. It just got thrown, and you were okay with it. But now we have one that we actually thought about, and you're so mad.
Yeah, and just, I'm not going to take a bunch of time, but like, yeah, they had the wrong version of their state flag flown for like 60, 70 years before somebody read the fine print and was like, oh shit, this is supposed to be white and the date's supposed to be like in another part. So like the one, sorry, again, not to go too much into the Utah thing again, but like, you'll have people on Twitter online like, protect our history. It's like the flag you're replacing, quote unquote replacing, because it's not, it's going to be co-equal or whatever.
Right.
Was adopted in 2011. Like, learn your fucking
not
history
even
first
that
off.
old. Yeah. Like the Washington state flag was redesigned in the 60s, I want to say, updated, but like it's still the same kind of clip art looking. I mean, it looks like a dollar bill, like that's what I like to tell people. It's like, if you get bummed if you miss the old flag, just open your wallet. Like, you got one right there. You could look at it if you want to. So yeah, I actually designed my redesign in 2017 as I was kind of getting into flag design. That was the year that my Bellingham one was officially adopted. So, it took like 2 years of promoting it before the government actually signed off on it. And once they did, I just started realizing like Washington, just needs a better one. And so I looked out, and there was quite a few online already. Nobody had really made a physical one, I don't think. So I ordered a couple samples and kind of got the ball rolling, but didn't really think about it until just last year when I realized the 100-year anniversary was coming up. So Washington flag was adopted in 1923. So the 100-year anniversary was just in March. So I did a Kickstarter because I was like, I'm going to finally physically make this flag. And I didn't want to like print a couple hundred and only sell 2. So I used Kickstarter to pre-sell several hundred designs, which I mailed out. At first, I was worried it was all going to land in like Western Washington, Northwest Washington, where people know me, but it's in 60 different cities around the state. And now that they're out there, people are seeing them and then just ordering more. So I've been mailing them every day because every flag becomes an ad for another flag, because they're such a public thing. But yeah, and I've met with some state legislators. I've met with state senators and some folks that are interested in talking about what we could do. But I really see my design as kind of like the Stennis flag in Mississippi.
Okay, yeah.
Or the original Utah, the one that was the 125th anniversary design.
Uh-huh.
Like that flag was the catalyst that kicked the state in the pants to redesign the flag. Like I don't have any like delusions that they're just going to be like, Brad's is the new one, because I know that's not how this stuff works. But the more alternative versions you get out there, the more people start to realize like, oh, this could be a valuable thing, or, oh yeah, I guess I don't fly my state flag, or maybe I do need a symbol that's representative of the people and not just the government. All those things that we know, that know flag design know the value that lies in there. But you got to start somewhere.
Right. Yeah. Amen. Your redesign is gorgeous. Is there a place that me specifically, is there a place I can buy one of these? Is it
Yeah, there's a link. So if you go to my website, Lariat Creative, and you click on the Washington flag, it's like right at the very top of my website. Pretty close up there on the link sends you to my I have an Etsy store where I sell most of my flags. So, I've got the Orca Face for sale there, Bellingham, Washington. I got the Pride version of Bellingham. And I got Washington up there. So
sweet. Yeah, I see one of these in my future. Yeah, I love your redesign on this, man. I'm sorry we got to it last. For some reason in my head, I was like, well, we've done that. I don't know why. We really hadn't.
And I think that like Michael's is really one of the only other Washington redesigns that's actually available for sale.
Wow, look at it go. It's really blowing.
Probably, yeah.
I mean, I've seen a lot of other redesigns. In fact, when I kicked mine off, I was like, I'm going to go buy waflag.com. Already taken by somebody else who had already redesigned the flag. I'm like, whoa, that's weird. So yeah. I think I bought wastateflag.com or something like that. So it's interesting to come across these. And there was one on Reddit maybe like 2 weeks ago that was making the rounds. It got like thousands of upvotes. It had like 2 orca whales kind of in like a yin yang. So there we go. There's the orca call out to action again. But
yeah, I don't think I saw that one.
Oh, it was really pretty. It was beautiful. But, again, as somebody who's had a flag manufactured, had to have flags sewn, I'm realizing like, guys, like this just really isn't going to work. Like there's way too much detail in these whales. And That's just the
Right.
kind of
Yeah.
thing, I hate to be that critic, but now that I've seen how things have to reproduce, super small or in one color or whatever, you
Yeah.
gotta
I
kind
was
of
gonna say,
live
now that
with
you
it.
have that knowledge, you might as well use it. Like,
Totally.
yeah. And speaking of having knowledge that we can use, it is about time to kind of wind down, wrap up. But I wanted to, for any listeners, viewers that we have that either would like to change the flag of their city, their municipality, or maybe there's already a contest going on in your area, or there's like vague interest. Do you have any tips for folks who just kind of want to see that change, maybe to get the ball rolling or keep it rolling if it is?
Yeah. I can kind of give you some of the like secrets that we did with the Bellingham flag, which is kind of fun.
Okay.
First, I put it in the public domain, so I said that anyone could use it. So that was just a letter that I signed that I like gave to the city. I encouraged, people to do co-branding. So, our grocery store made a tote bag, our brewery made a patch with their logo, and so it's like co-branding, like going to community members and getting them involved.
Okay.
Because like things like breweries, coffee shops, those are the kind of places that people cultivate, and they see these symbols.
Absolutely.
So then I use Kickstarter because you never know how many actual physical flags people want. But a tricky thing that I did is I ordered like 20 before the Kickstarter went out, and then I donated one to all of these places that people go. So I donated one to the brewery, I donated one to the coffee shop, I donated one to the grocery store, and I just said, could you just fly this, hang it on the wall, whatever? And they all agreed. So when the Kickstarter went out, it was already a thing that people realized was real. It wasn't just this theoretical thing like, oh, I think I saw one of those. Oh, and now I can get one. So yeah, we ended up selling a couple hundred on Kickstarter. So those went out. Another really sneaky thing that we did is I printed a little sticker that said "Made in Bellingham" with a little tiny version of the flag, and I donated it to an ice creamery. And I was like, "Could you stick this on your ice cream pints?" So it's like subliminal messaging. Like people are eating ice cream, and then they see this little thing that says "Made in Bellingham," and it's like with the flag. And maybe they'd never seen the flag before, but now they're like, it's just a straight line to their brain. Did the same thing with a coffee shop that made like great local coffee. I gave a lot of talks, and not just talks in my world. Like I gave a lot of talks, like creative talks or whatever, but I also got into like the Rotary Club, places with like maybe people that aren't my age, and just kind of gave them presentations. Here's what the flag means. Here's the symbolism. Here's the city flag movement. We should really just get on board with this, and so lots of talks, tabling at events, setting up, giving out stickers, because you can get stickers printed for tens of cents. So yeah, I mean there was a million little details that we did along the way, but just putting it out there.
If folks are serious about it, that seems like a pretty good roadmap. Putting it out there, seeding it into the public consciousness before it even, before even the Kickstarter comes out, because that I never thought about it that way, but it's so much more useful to have somebody sees the Kickstarter or whatever, and they already got that in mind. They already have seen this design, and they're like, oh, there's that thing that I've seen at the coffee place and at this place, that place. I almost thought it was already official. Like it's not.
Right, exactly.
It's not. Yeah. Well, let's make it. Yeah.
You fake it till you make it big time.
Right. Okay. Those are some good tips. So yeah, listeners, if you are one of those people, and I've had several people reach out to me, and I'm like, I don't know. I talk to interesting people that do know, but I don't know. So
get to know your city council. City council is ultimately, and mayor is one of the big deciders. So like have a coffee meeting with them, pitch it to them. Like I didn't know any city council before I started this thing, and now I know all of them,
Sure, yeah.
And the first one to get involved is usually excited, because then they can kind of take ownership. So like I had multiple city council member that actually got excited. One of them went to a native tribe for me because I represented native tribes on my stars. We had to get those governments approvals too. So she actually went to one government on behalf of me, which I couldn't get a meeting with. But yeah, and then the mayor actually hated the design and hated what I was doing. So I had political opposition at the same time that I had political support. But yeah, just take the time to reach out. Any good city council person will take a meeting with you. Yeah. And and just sell it to them. And you use examples like Bellingham or other cities, and you prove the value and just tell them that they're, losing out by not doing it.
Right. That makes sense. I mean, you have to start with civic engagement to get to, the ultimate goal of broader civic engagement with the flag, with the design. Yeah, makes sense. I know a couple local politicians here in Chattanooga, and our flag could use changing. I don't know if I'm the one to do it, but I do have ideas. And
Totally.
I'm honestly going to take a bit of that and kind of wrap that up and at least get something started here, which, like you said, getting something started is the main thing.
Oh, yeah.
If it doesn't end up being my design, and it probably won't, it will still be better than the current design. And
Absolutely.
that's the ultimate goal, not to get mine out there, but to get a better one.
That's how I feel about Washington too. You know,
Absolutely.
anything. Let's do
Yeah.
it.
All right, man. Well, well, I know I do. Do you have time for a quick little game
Sure.
with us? All right. Shouldn't take very long, but I've got a new game like I teased out up top. This is called Flag Star Reviews. I guess I'll remember it one of these times. And so the way that this is going to work, I'll give you an example one. It is fake Yelp reviews for flags. So these reviews are not real, but on the like national flag level, here's an example of one. For Liberia, the review could say, "Too close to the US flag, 1 star." Do you get how it works?
Yeah.
So it's very close in design to the US star, but it only has 1 star on the flag. So the review is a 1-star review. I don't think I said that part. That's the operative part. So like Chile and Texas, you could say for Chile, you could say, "Looks too much like Texas, 1 star," or something like that. All right. So we'll get into it. Let's start with this one. Question 1. Review 1, I should say. This reviewer said, "There's beauty in simplicity, and I can see it every time I look at the night sky. 8 stars.
Alaska.
That is, in fact, Alaska.
That was easy.
I knew I had to get that one in there just because you love it, or got into it. Yeah. All right, let's do this one. This review says, "Looks very Dutch, but I just can't get enough bears. It's amazing. How about, I don't know, 61 stars?
Would that be California?
61 stars?
Oh, 61 stars? Oh,
yeah, and these are all state flags.
Stars. Oh, this is a state flag. Okay. Wait.
Sorry, I should have mentioned that.
You probably did, but oh gosh. I can't think of it.
Looks very Dutch, and I can't get enough bears. All right, that is the flag of Missouri.
Oh.
It's got the Dutch color scheme, generally, you know, the top to bottom. And it's got like at least 3 bears on it, and somehow 61 stars. Somehow 61 stars. Yeah. So there's like the number state that it was around a ring, and then there's also that many stars and like a weird cloud above stuff. And then there's the like that I don't know, one of the US symbols that it looks like a, for lack of a better word, well, it's a 6-pointed star. And it's got stars, I don't remember how many, 13 or something in it.
That's a lot of stars.
All that combines to make 61 stars. So
whoa.
This person thought it was a 61-star flag. All right, let's travel a little bit. This reviewer said,
go easier on me.
That's all right. This reviewer said, "I mean, it's way better than that loser's rag they used until very recently. You know what? Screw it. 21 stars.
Mississippi?
That is, in fact, Mississippi. I thought you'd get that one.
Nice.
We've got 2 more. This reviewer said, yeehaw. As a Southern irredentist, this flag speaks to my sensibilities. Great throwback, 13 stars.
13 stars on a Southern flag.
Which is a great throwback.
Great throwback. No, don't know it.
That one is Georgia.
Oh, okay.
Georgia's flag is exactly the CSA flag, not the battle flag people think of, but the actual Confederate States flag.
Georgia in the 90s, right?
Oh, they changed it a few times. They even changed it one time to include all the flags that it had on it.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Flagception. I like
Look
that.
at, oh, it really is, dude. It's like, it says Georgia, and then it's at the bottom, it says the history of Georgia's flags, and it has 5.
It's just text describing history on the flag.
The governor of Georgia at the time that flag went in did not win re-election, and there's like actual political theorists that are like, it could have had something to do with that god-awful flag.
I think I did read that. Yeah. Okay, that's amazing.
Look it up. It's miserable. And our final one, the reviewer says, "It's one of the best state flags, but I have incredibly high standards. Given the above, I can only give it 3 stars.
Best state flags with 3 stars. Oh, God. No, don't know it. What is the L?
That is the flag of Tennessee.
Oh,
Right,
God, right there. Jeez.
For listeners, it's on screen right now, but
do more
you know,
research before
when I
this.
think I look up and to the right, so I'm not looking at at Brad's
Yeah.
background here
I always
either.
forget about
All right,
Tennessee.
so let me
Bangers.
calculate up the scores.
2.
All right, that was a B plus. B
Oh.
stands for Brad. So
Okay,
Brad,
yeah,
I hope that was a plus for you.
sure. Great on the curve.
Oh man, I turned you down. I cannot hear you.
No worries.
All right, I've got you back up again. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. Listeners, viewers, I hope you enjoyed that. Brad, where can people find you, follow your design work, any of your work really? What's the best way to do that?
Yeah, so I go by Lariat for most of my design related things. LARIAT Creative. It's just kind of like my little freelance studio. And so if you go to lariatcreative.com, you can see all my flags on there. I've got a tab at the top you can click and it filters it for all the stuff I'm working on. And then I also sell a lot of my stuff online via a company called Northwest Corner Goods, nwcornergoods.com. So you can go that, check out. I do just like Pacific Northwest related design. Country music patches is a thing that I sell that I design for fun. I have a bandana board game that's on there that I made, just lots of ridiculous stuff. So Lariat and Northwest Corner Goods, and you'll find some of that stuff out there.
Awesome. Yeah. And it's, I appreciate a well set up website as well. So give you props for that.
A lot of content.
Oh yeah. And speaking of content, you can find Flagged for Content anywhere with an @ at flagged the number 4 content. You can very easily go to our link tree. That is probably going to be the best spot to interact with the show in as many different ways as possible. Check us out on YouTube. As I said the last couple weeks, if you only are an audio listener, still go and subscribe to the YouTube. That helps me, which helps the show, which helps me bring content that you guys like. Even if you never watch the YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to it. I would appreciate it. Okay, and that's all our plugs. I had a way to close out the show, but I honestly don't see it, and I can't even probably reach it right now if I could. Brad, can you help me out, dude? Is there a good way to close this thing?
Oh, yeah. Keep on flagging in the free world.
Woo! You heard it here, folks. You heard it here first, folks. You heard it here, folks. Anyway, this episode, maybe more than any other, has been Flagged for Content. Thanks so much for listening, y'all. That was ridiculous.
We did it.
We did it. I may try and... No, you know what? I like it. Flagged for Content is a Flags for Good podcast. Go to flagsforgood.com for more info.